Hey guys, and welcome back to Grounds Family Farm. So today it's just the girls and me because Kevin is at work and we have been busy. We've been doing school. I baked a little bit, which I'll show you a little bit more of that later. And now it is time to do chores. We obviously did our morning checks because it is very, very cold out right now. We did get some winter weather. We got a little bit more than what they initially thought we'd get. We got some freezing rain, we got some sleet, and we got some snow. So things are still pretty frosty around here because we're not actually supposed to get above freezing until sometime tomorrow. So that's been kind of crazy. So we've been having to make sure we bust up water and we check on everybody multiple times a day, especially those who are supposed to be having babies, because as you know, animals are notorious for having babies whenever the weather is at the worst possible conditions. But right now, this is the second day of it, of the sun being out, and it's, even though it's still below freezing, it is melting. So there's not near as much on the ground as there was. Yesterday, it was mostly survival mode, taking care of everything a few times a day that we had to, and then getting back in the house. So I didn't feel like videoing because it was just way too cold. It's not really a whole lot warmer today, but it is a little sunnier, so that helps a little bit. But I'm going to take you around and let you see everybody. And we did have one big surprise in the middle of all this bad weather stuff. So I'm going to show you what we've got. Okay, so first we're going to be over here at the mama pen. Abby is dumping out the feed for me because it's a lot easier for her to get through that fence than it is for me, even though I do every day. But she offered to do it, so I'm letting her. But I want to show you what we have in here today. If you are counting, there are 2 white sheep in here. And look at the little bitty baby. That mama right there decided to have her baby yesterday. And not necessarily the best conditions. But, of course, it wasn't snowing or anything like that yesterday. It just was really, really cold. But it is a little boy. She only had one, which he's her first. So, I mean, that it can go either way as the first one. But he's doing really good. She's taking really good care of him. And she actually was probably the most docile one that we have had to take out of that pen. I'm not real sure why they're all eating out of the same pans, because there's 4 in there. Yeah. But she was the most docile one because she actually was concerned enough about her baby to go up in the hut. And then Kevin and I went in there, blocked her in. He just calmly put a lead over her and we led her over to the pen. So it really wasn't that bad. But look how sweet this little boy is. He's really cute. And we've been actually checking on him multiple times a day because he is so little. The others are doing really good and he's doing well. It's just he did come in at a rough time. So, but for circumstances, he's doing great. And actually, whenever we walked over here earlier, this little man was standing there eating with his mama. So that was pretty cool. But you can definitely tell that this pen is starting to get a little more crowded than it was. It's still fine. They still have plenty of room and all that. But we're definitely having to put a little bit more hay out and all that good stuff than what we originally were planning on. And that's okay because at least they're taken care of and they're all doing really great. The babies, couldn't ask for better on the babies, but so I'm guessing all of our babies are just going to be like this and we probably won't have any white baby lambs. And that's okay. It's just funny how every single one of them look exactly like him. Like exactly like their daddy. And they're so docile and sweet. Oh, look at this. Look at that. That's funny. One of the little girls is sitting there staring at, which cat is that?
That's a boo.
A boo. Like not real sure what to think. Oh, and there's Louie coming over to play too. She's like, what is that? They're here with you all the time. They're with you all the time. Are y'all gonna play? Oh my goodness. That is too funny though. Because I never see them doing that, but their tails, even though you can't really see the bands, they're still on there. We check for that too. And hopefully we'll be having those tails fall off you know, in a week or two. That's just the way it goes.
We have a ton of animals and there's a chicken and some cats.
Yeah, and we got a chicken in here eating in addition. What are you doing, guys? That's the feed bucket that Abby used, but she just hadn't taken it out yet because she had to go hold that sweet little one. Hi, Cicely. Whenever I came in here to check on the new baby earlier, Cicely came up and she was nibbling on my sweatshirt. She just wanted to come mess with me. Hey, you want to take him over to his mama? He's getting around really good, so. He's like, it's way warmer when you're holding me. Yeah, they're all doing great. And, I mean, the white sheep are not friendly still, but, I mean, they're tolerating us because they're like, hey, when they come out, they bring some food. Yeah. At least some of the time. We don't bring them food every single round because they don't need that much grain. They need more hay than anything. And I'll go get some of that here in just a few minutes. But for now, I'm just going to go give grain to everybody and then circle back and do that. But I've got to bust up the water and stuff again because it's still below freezing. You are so sweet. Yeah, she's still mesmerized by those cats. It's so funny. Sis, girlfriend, you getting wide. What's on her back?
Blue.
Oh, it's probably from your sweatshirt.
Blue.
I was like, what is that? I thought it was paint. Hey, sheepy, you don't have to be greedy. But yeah, this pen is getting full of little babies, and I love it. Oh, he's going to go over there and try to eat. They all check on the baby, so that's nice. All right, so we're going to take you around, let you see everybody else. I need to go check on the other sheep and, Penelope and Pancakes, actually, because they're all pregnant for sure that we know. Pancake's a little closer than anybody else, but we're going to see. We just have to be really careful walking in this stuff because it is extremely slippery now that it's kind of melting some, and we've got the underlayer of ice, and then the refreeze hits, and oh my word, it's like you could skate out here just about. So it's crazy. Yeah, this is what it looks like today. Not near as much as it was before. I did go ahead and throw out feed for these guys earlier because they were needing it. Yeah, they were hollering at me. So, hey guys. Hey Cinnamon. Huh? No. If you want to go turn it off, you can. Hey Blizzard. And these guys, this whole time, have not really been using their hut, even though there's fresh straw in there. They have a little bit because when I was in there earlier, it was pretty well worn down, so they've been laying on it, but they've knocked the top off Cinnamon's doghouse, so we'll have to fix that in a little bit. Probably horse playing, if I had to guess. But yeah, it is really pretty when it's white like this, but then it just melts and gets really gross.
Remember when they were not coming along?
Yeah, they're doing a lot better now that y'all been messing with them. Hi, Cinnamon.
Especially
Betty, really? Really, Betty? Really, Betty, is that what we're going to do? I don't know if y'all can hear that or not, but she's seriously squealing at me right now because I am up here feeding and not down there. And Blizzard did eat earlier because I fed him at the exact same time as the others, but you know how he likes to finish out a corner of theirs too. So we're going to go ahead and check on these guys on the way down to the other pen because she is being extremely greedy. Hey guys! Hey! Olympia! I already fed you and you got a bunch of hay. Hey Oracle! Hey Oracle!
I don't know why, but they love the cats.
They wanted some loves today. Hey Nutmeg! Hey baby! Hey Johnny! I don't really want to pet you very much because you stink. There's Izzy. Izzy was out back doing some chores earlier, but decided to join us now.
I fed everything.
You fed everything? Good deal. Thank you. Now let's go check on Cookie. Hey, Cookie.
Hello. Cookie has it.
Hey, Cookie. What are you doing, buddy? Got his chicken friends. Hey, baby. Look at those horns. They're getting bigger. They really are. I'm not going to grab you. I just was looking at how big they're getting. They're growing a lot.
I don't like whenever somebody touches my horns.
Hey, sweet boy. Alright, so now continuing on down the hill, y'all girls be very careful because it is slippery on these ice patches.
I think what we need is a sleigh to get down.
Yeah, you could just about sled down this hill with as much ice as is on the surface of it. I'm trying to bust up waters as I go. Again. That way it's not so much later. So, let's see. I'm going to do that one in a second. We're going to go ahead and feed everybody. Alright, you can...
Okay, that's silent. Will you turn the alarm clock off?
Penelope and Pancakes are still pregnant, so we haven't had any new babies yet. Hi, Pancakes. I just keep waiting on Pancakes to drop any minute or any day now because she has gotten so big. I mean, look at that, guys. It's just every single day she's a little bit wider, a little bit lower. Hey, Penelope. Hey, Waffles. Hey, buddy.
I tried to lick my finger.
Oh. Hey, you want to put some feed out down here for the horses and donkeys? Because they're waiting. Not so patiently. There's Spock. Hi, buddy. He loves feeding time. But that's why you got to put some on the ends so that he can get to it. And a little bit there. Now dump it on the other end too. You're getting that all over you, girlfriend. Oh, you're getting on his nose. Careful. Hey, Comet. He's not so sure. He gets a little nervous when they all crowd around like this. But everybody down here is doing awesome. Like I said, no new babies, even though we're keeping a close eye. But there is no way in the world I'm going to go in there and check her to see if she's got milk. Because she's not that kind of friendly, and I really don't want to get kicked. That's just not really on my agenda for today. Betty. Hey, I think Betty needs some more, babe. Betty needs more because she's in that feeder. She decided to come down here. Yeah, put one more scoop in there because with the pigs have to eat more than the other, or they do eat more than the others because they don't eat the hay like the others do. Okay, so yeah, everybody's doing really well. It's definitely more of a struggle in the cold weather to come out here and do chores because then you got to worry about making sure you got enough clothes on. You got to worry about making sure you got the right footwear and to where you don't freeze, especially when the temps are this low. We definitely don't want the kids coming out here and getting frostbite or anything like that. So it's just a little more challenging. Whew. Or slipping on ice because, you know, that's not fun either. Hey, Abs, can you plug up this fence again for me? But I'm just thankful that everybody's doing well. So we're going to go over here now and go get some square hay. That way we can feed the hay to the mama pen and then also feed it to Oracle and Olympia and Nutmeg and Johnny because they also need that. Whew. I'm glad I was off work today so I could get so much done. I do go back to work tomorrow because the roads are pretty well clear, but Kevin has been working like non-stop because this weather is not a good time for his work. He said there's been so many crashes and everything, and it's just kind of been a disaster. So he's extra tired, and we're just trying to get all these chores done before he comes home so he can just relax and not feel like he's got to get up and help us do chores. Because I know after a long day of work, that's the last thing you really want to have to focus on. I like how he put that feed in there. That was really, really helpful. Okay, so Izzy has got the hay that's going down to Olympia and Oracle, Johnny, and Nutmeg. And I've got this hay that's going to the mama pen. Hey guys! You want some hay?
Yes, let me take some hay. Thank you. Thank you, you want some hay.
I'm just going to toss it over the side and brush off. Oh, she got little baby over there just hanging out. He's sleepy, but he was up eating, so that's good.
Oh, Junior's giant.
Yeah, Junior is giant.
Junior's giant.
But they're all enjoying that, obviously. Okay, so slight problem. I went to go try to get the water hose out for the big pen down there because I realized theirs is a little bit low. I couldn't just bust up the ice. And that hose is blown. So that's not a good problem to have because that means I've got to haul some buckets now. Not my favorite thing to do, I will tell you. And I've got to go get a couple more buckets because I don't have very many up here. Then I'm fixing to go inside because it is extremely cold and my hands are feeling very frozen right now. I was going to wear gloves. I do have plenty, but I chose not to because yesterday what happened was when I went to go water everything, I wound up, wasn't the smartest move. You're crazy. You know it? You're crazy. But I went to go bust water and I used my hand rather than like a T-post or something. And yeah, I soaked my glove and that did not feel nice. So I figured I would just wing it today and roll with it. Okay, these have already had water in them, so they're fine. So it's a little cold, but it's fine. And like I said, we gotta do what we gotta do. It's part of it. I'm going to definitely have Kevin order another one of those hoses because we need a hose down there. We can probably, I don't know, we can probably make things work for now, but it's not cool. These from the heat ordered from Amazon a while back are completely awesome. So definitely want some more of those. And while we're at it, I mean, who knows? May need to just go ahead and order enough to take care of everything else. Oh, there's feed in that bucket. And that's got a split in it, so. I'm just going to use this one, rinse it out, and this other one, and take some buckets down there with that. I'm not going to be able to hold the camera and do that, and the girls are freezing, so they went inside. So I'm on my own. I will pick back up whenever I get done with this. Okay, so while I was filling up my water bucket, I realized that Cinnamon had something she was messing with. Turns out, Cinnamon dispatched another one of our birds, which I am not happy about. I know they got in her pen, but I still do not want our animals to be hurting others. So I don't really know what to do about that, but I feel kind of defeated because, I mean, Blizzard does not act that way, but I don't want him to start learning that behavior either. And that's what I'm afraid is going to happen if we continue to allow her to do that. So she knows she's in trouble, but so she's staying away from me right now because she's not happy I told her no and took her plaything away. But it's bad, guys. It's really bad. I need to go actually check up on how the girls did with their chores, or how Izzy did on their chores, and make sure that everybody back there has water because I filled up a bucket to be able to do that. While I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and show you a clip from earlier of where I was making some cinnamon rolls. I made gluten-free and regular, so stick around for that. And then whenever I'm done with this, we'll take you in the house and let you see how everything's looking. Okay, so back in the kitchen this afternoon, and I'm trying something different. I've made homemade cinnamon rolls in the past, many times actually, and done pretty well with them, honestly. They always taste pretty good. But I've had a hard time trying to get a good gluten-free cinnamon roll recipe nailed down. So I'm going to try to make some gluten-free and some regular cinnamon rolls today so that we can have a nice treat. Kevin actually was asking last night, he mentioned something about wanting cinnamon rolls. So I was like, you know what, I've got time today because it's been really nasty outside and it's been way too cold to do anything except what we have to do out there. So figured it'd be something fun to do. The girls are already finished up with their schoolwork for the day. And so now I can actually devote some time to baking, which is something I really, really enjoy. So I'm going to show you what I've already been working on because it's a lengthy process with the gluten-free one. So I figured I'd go ahead and get it started before I got the camera rolling. So what I've done is it called for a cup of warm milk and then half a cup of granulated sugar and a tablespoon of yeast that you just sprinkle over the top of that. And then you have to let it sit for a couple of minutes to kind of let the yeast start bubbling up. And then you start adding the rest of it. So I'm to that stage now where I add more to it. All right, right here I have 2 room temperature eggs and a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. So I'm going to add that to it. And I'm going to go ahead and move this over to my stand mixer now. For the flour, it is 3 1/4 cups of gluten-free all-purpose. It calls for 2 teaspoons of baking powder and then a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Adding my melted butter now. And now we're just going to mix that. Now I'm going to take the paddle attachment off and put my dough hook on because it wants it to be kneaded for 3 to 5 minutes. So I'm going to do that and then we'll get our bowls and everything prepped for what we need. Okay, so now it is time to put this in here. So gluten-free dough, as I've said before about other things I've baked, is a completely different animal than anything else. So that's what it looks like. It doesn't form into a dough ball because it's just a softer type of dough. And if you add too much flour to try to do that, then you're going to be left with a mess. And by mess, I mean horribly thick, not so great tasting cinnamon rolls. Because I've made mistakes before in my gluten-free baking. It's one of the reasons I'm sharing all this now is because I've kind of learned some of what works and some of what doesn't, because a lot of things that work on regular baking do not work in gluten-free baking. Okay, so see, I've got it all dumped into here. So what it says to do is to wet your hands with warm water and rub the dough ball to make it smooth. And that also adds moisture for your rise. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and get my hands wet with some nice warm water, and then we're going to do that. Okay, hands are wet, nice warm water. So it says just rub it to make it nice and smooth. That's pretty smooth on top. Covering this with plastic wrap. So I'm going to stick this down in here and it will fit. And so you're supposed to pour 2 cups of hot water in the big bowl very carefully, and don't get the water in the covered bowl area. So I'm just going to, I warmed it up on the stove. Now we're going to cover it with a towel and allow it to rise for 20 minutes. All right, while that is doing its thing, we're going to go and make the cinnamon filling. I've started on this. So I was measuring up ingredients earlier while that was mixing. But it calls for half a teaspoon of vanilla, which I've got in here, and a 1/4 cup of softened butter. So I let that soften in the skillet that I'd melted my butter in earlier. And that worked out good. Now, these two mix together, And then you also mix brown sugar and cinnamon together. So it's a cup of brown sugar and 1.5 tablespoons of ground cinnamon. Okay, so that's pretty well mixed there. I'm gonna set these to the side now. Just all this to the side actually, because I've got to prep my area to be able to roll these out in a minute. So I'm gonna get my handy dandy silicone mat, and that's what I'm going to roll it out on. You can use parchment paper if you don't have one of these. These are amazing. Kevin got it for me a couple of Christmases ago, and I use this thing all the time. Biscuits are great. The cleanup is minimal. It's amazing. Can't say enough wonderful things about having this. Okay, now that I've got my area prepped right here where I'm going to roll out the gluten-free ones whenever they're ready, I'm going to go ahead and switch gears and start the process with the regular ones just because it does take so long. Now, I've gone ahead and cleaned my mixing bowl. I've already got some stuff in there. I'm going to bring you over here and show you what I've got as I add the rest of it to make the dough. Okay, so what I've already done over here is I stirred together water, yeast, and sugar. It was 1/2 cup of water, a package of dry yeast, which is 2 1/4 teaspoons, and a teaspoon of sugar, and then mixed it up, let that sit for about 5 minutes till it got foamy. Then I added 1/3 cup of melted butter. I'm adding my 1/2 cup of milk, which I had to warm slightly just to get it to where it's like a room temperature and not cold. You don't want it to harm the yeast. Then I added 1/3 cup of sugar, a teaspoon of salt, and now I'm going to put the dough hook on, mix this around a little bit, and then add my flour. And on this, it actually said to add the other ingredients to the flour. I'm not doing that just because it's not usually what I do. And it usually turns out fine, so 2 and 3/4. That's why you always reread the directions. 1, 2, 3/4 cup of flour. So here we go. And it says to knead it for 3 or 4 minutes until smooth. It says use your hands. I prefer to use the mixer. It's easier, less physically intensive for me. So it says you can add a little more flour if you need to, which looks like you might need just a little sprinkling. With regular dough, you can do this with the addition of the flour while it's kneading, because I mean it'd be like when you're hand kneading and you add a little more flour here and there to help keep things from sticking everywhere. But you just don't want to use too much. That's the main thing. Okay, and pardon my tight work quarters here, but since I have my gluten-free stuff going on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and do this one right here. And if you'll recognize this bowl, it is the one I used for the gluten-free, the secondary heat-proof bowl for the gluten-free one. But that is ready to be rolled out now, so I pulled it apart and putting this dough ball in here. And as with everything else that we leave to rise, I'm going to cover this with plastic wrap and my towel, and it's going to a warm spot. Alrighty, so that one has to rise for a whole hour. So we're gonna leave that be, and I've got my timer set for an hour. So now this gluten-free dough, as you can see, it has grown, which is great. So now I'm going to take this. It's got lots of holes in it, which means there's air. That's good. I'm going to go ahead and get my spatula. Hopefully it'll just be easy to come out. Oh yeah, never mind. It plops right out. And it probably should actually be on the other side because that was my smoothed out side. Okay. So, don't know, I'm learning as I go on this too, because this is a brand new recipe for me. So if it works out well, then maybe you guys will get to see it right along with me. So it's kind of scary to try something new on video for the first time, but I guess we'll see how it works out. Okay, so I sprayed that. I put this on top of it. Now we're going to dust the top of the dough with a little bit of flour. Just a hair. I don't know, I'm going to use this whole tablespoon. And get my big bad rolling pin. The rolling pins, you do want to dust them with flour too, otherwise you're going to stick. So let's go ahead and start rolling it out. And you want it about a 1/2 inch thick and 12 by 14 inch rectangle. Which, if you think about it, it's bigger than a piece of paper, but not by a whole lot. So think about it in those kind of terms. And the main thing for me is trying to get it into a rectangle, because sometimes things are not very cooperative like that. But I don't want it too thin, because otherwise it's not going to work out. All right, that's a pretty decent rectangle. It's not really straight with the camera, but that's okay. So, okay, the butter is definitely soft, so that's good. And it was mixed with my vanilla. So I'm going to stick this over here. Okay, so I'm going to take this. And there's better spatulas for this, but this is what I have out. So I figured I'd just go ahead and use it. Not have to do more dishes later, because who really likes doing dishes? Okay, so now to sprinkle this over my buttered dough. So I'm just going to use my fingers, because I can actually control that a lot better than I can with a spoon. And it's going to be pretty thick, but that's okay, because you want it to be nice and sweet. And that's one thing I've been really, really working on over the last several years, is finding things that taste good, look good, all that are still okay for me to eat. Because it may be different for somebody who's always not been able to have certain things like regular flour and all that. I was able to for a long time. And to go from being able to eat whatever I wanted to having to be restricted like this, it was hard. And so now I'm just finding ways to make the best of the situation that I'm in, which is, gluten-free lifestyle. And, I feel like hopefully if I do this and I'm bringing you guys along with me, then maybe it'll help somebody else. Because, there's a lot of people out there who have to eat this way. So maybe it's something that'll help you guys. So now I have to roll this up. And you start on one of the long edges. You don't use a short edge. And it's when you don't do it maybe exactly the same size, then you're going to get slightly irregular. It's going to be harder to get it started, but it's going to work out. So here we go. I always thought cinnamon rolls are like one of the harder things to make a long time ago. And we didn't make them a whole lot growing up, but we did make them some, and my mom made some amazing cinnamon rolls. Okay, so I'm having a bit of an issue right here. Since I did not put this on here completely straight, this one right here is trying to come apart. I'm having to just pull it up to it and call it good. So I don't know how this is going to turn out. But I'm going to go ahead and start cutting, and then hopefully I can kind of move things back as I go. If these turn out good, I'm going to have gluten-free cinnamon rolls to share, because how in the world am I going to eat 12 or whatever, however many cinnamon rolls by myself? Okay, so on this one, it wants you to put them in the middle rack of the oven, then turn the oven to 375. And once it gets up to temperature, then to set the bake time, because it's using that as the rise time. So we'll see how that works. Hopefully it goes okay. But I'm going to go ahead and clean up my hands and stuff before I do that. What it had me do was to warm up some, it's called for heavy cream. I'm using milk because I don't keep heavy cream. I did have the 9x13 stacked inside another one because the other one is for my regular ones. So here's what they look like now. We're going to put them in the oven and preheat it to 375. Once it gets up to temp, I am going to cook it for 15 to 20 minutes until they're light golden brown. We'll see how this works out, and I'll let you see the finished product, good or bad. Okay, so they cooked for almost 20 minutes, and then they look like this, which is kind of a golden brown on top, so I figured that was good. Press on them. They're still soft, so that's good. Now I'm going to make my icing. Now, there's two different types of icing, and the one that I prefer to make is the regular vanilla frosting icing. And here's what I've got all the ingredients in it. I'm going to start whisking it so it doesn't just get cakey. But it calls for 2 cups of powdered sugar, 5 tablespoons of milk, and a teaspoon of vanilla. And then you whisk it really good and then pour it over your warm cinnamon rolls. And so that's what I'm going to do. Some of them look a little funny since obviously they weren't, like perfect, but I'm going to get a pastry brush here in a second. They definitely took up the entire pan. So that's really encouraging because I wasn't sure since my last ones didn't really rise that well. But I also, like I said, made a lot of errors the last time too. So, okay, I'm going to set that to the side because I'm probably going to want that for the regular ones also. But I still have about 5 minutes left on the rise. I am going to go ahead and check though on the regular ones because if they've doubled in size, then I don't have to wait for 5 more minutes. All right, so I wound up letting it go ahead and finish at the last 5 minutes because I had to melt my butter, make up my filling, all that good stuff. And I figured, why not just let that rise through all that instead of rolling it out and just doing nothing with it. So let me uncover it and I'll show you what we've got. Look at that beautifully risen dough. So now we've got to punch it down. So on this, I'm just going to put a little bit of flour on here. So on this recipe, it actually tells you to put it onto a floured surface. So that's what I'm going to do. Just turn it out here. Now try to keep it lightly floured just so that it doesn't incorporate too much into the dough. Well, just put a little bit on top. And that way my rolling pin doesn't stick to it. Same thing, kind of make it into a sort of rectangle. So I melted some butter. I'm going to use my pastry brush to brush it all over with this butter. This one doesn't call for the vanilla like the other recipe did, so I don't know what the difference is, but all I know is that with gluten-free baking especially, you better follow that recipe. Otherwise, you could be in for some disaster. So now I'm going to mix it really good. And then same thing, using my hands, just sprinkle it liberally over this area. Looks so yummy. Too bad I can't taste this version. Okay, so actually one of my hopes with this is that it doesn't stick like the other one did. I didn't obviously grease the mat enough when I was making that other one. Trial and error because I didn't want to just make it a grease ball or anything, but obviously I need to do a little bit different next time. So I'll just spray it liberally and not worry about it because I don't think it would have turned into a grease ball. And as I roll this, I'm just trying to tuck it up under as I go too, so it's a nice tight roll. I couldn't obviously do that very well with the gluten-free one because it was pulling apart, but as far as gluten-free cinnamon rolls go, that probably was the best result that I've had ever, because usually it just tries to tear before I even get that far into it. So, okay, I'm going to flour this, kind of like I grazed the knife on the last round, I'm going to flour this one. Okay, this says cut side up. So most of these are going to have 2 cuts, so I don't really know. But let's see how these turn out. These look beautiful. And these, hopefully this is a really great recipe and I can make these more often because they really are not that hard. You just have to have a little bit of time for the rises and everything, but that's one of the most important parts to it, is just making sure you have the time for the rise. Because if you don't, they may not turn out right. So obviously there's some differences in size, uniformity, all that, but that's okay. So it says to cover and let rise for an hour. So I'm going to get my plastic wrap, spray it, put it over the top, and then let them rise, leave them alone for an hour. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up this glaze for the regular ones. These to the side. And I'm going to use this bowl over here, the same one I used earlier, to make it simple. And for this glaze, it's 1.5 cups of powdered sugar, 3 to 4 tablespoons of milk, and 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. My glaze, it's drippy but not runny, so I think it wound up perfect. So I'm just going to pour it over them, just like I did with the last ones. Okay, so got the glaze put on them and everything, and the pan is so hot that it's literally bubbling, so that's kind of nice, but they smell so good now. So I'm hoping everybody enjoys them, and we'll have to update you on how they tasted later. But I think that's all we got for you today, and appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you next time on Grounds Family Farm. Bye guys.